24, 25, you start seeing 3,700 parts per million platinum pop right into that cat. I see a higher loadings in turboed engines now than I do in hybrids.
Are you seeing any trends in diesel?
High palladium, which is unusual for a diesel. Late model Mercedes, BMWs, the silicon carbide, high value stuff. Back in the day, as you know, it was 5 grades.
Used to be 2 grades.
Used to be 2. Now it's 12,000 numbers, and the problem is, how fast can you get to the right number?
They want to mark VIN numbers on those existing vehicles on the road.
Who's going to pay for it?
You know how Congress is. They like to spend our money.
Some people's been setting since 22 on their stuff. I talked to a guy last week. He's got 4,000. It's been setting for 3 years. There's $400,000 roughly.
How do you see pricing affecting volume? How does it feel going forward the next 2 to 3 years?
So my feeling is it'll
Welcome to Noble Six Talks. We're here at the 49th Annual IPMI Conference in Scottsdale, Arizona. We have our good friend, Mr. Ben Davis of Davis Recycling, all the way from Johnson City, Tennessee. How you doing, Ben?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Excellent.
Doing great. Johnson City, go Johnson City.
That's right.
Well, let's start with assay versus selling by the piece. What's your take on that?
My take on that is depending on the customer and what their needs are, you know, how fast they want to turn their money. There's been a big push for assay only, like that's your best value. But I think if you look at the data, as far as like our data and the way it's priced, you can find that there is not that big of a difference as far as a return, because the way we run all of our assays, right? You add your highs and your lows, and then you price off your averages. Same thing with assay, right? You're going to have a high load, you're going to have a low load, but if you look at your averages, the only thing that really changes is you may be saving 3 to 4%, because, right, we take the risk at that point when it's on whole cats.
Right.
Versus assay, there's no risk to us, so you can work on a thinner margin. So as long as you're working with a supplier that their data is correct, are you okay with giving up a few percent to get your money quicker and to turn it faster? Is what my opinion of it is. I don't think assay is for everyone.
Oh, you're right. I don't think it is.
Yeah. So I think it's a customer base. I think it's been pushed really hard. But if your data set is right in your app and you're pricing your customers right, it's just a small percentage.
Hey guys, have you ever wondered if you're leaving money on the table when selling your scrap catalytic converters? Well, we have a solution for you. We have a converter price guide with thousands of part numbers. Just use it, check it out. You can sign up today, have access for it today. See if you are leaving any money on the table, or keep the guy honest that you're selling to. You want to check it out, make sure you're making the most profits for your business in today's market. It's super simple, just click the link below, get started today. Now let's get back to the video.
What are you hearing from the customers? Are they holding? Are they turning?
Some are still holding. We've seen a lot of volume getting released. So a lot of the people that were holding at this point have sold, and now are selling on a regular basis. So we've actually seen a volume increase over the beginning of this year.
So do they understand the art of hedging in this processing world?
You talking about on the assayers?
Mm-hmm.
We try to educate them really well.
That's a double-edged sword, hedging.
Yes.
You overhedge, you're buying back maybe, you underhedge, you got a forward hedge again.
So the way our system works, as soon as we invoice their data, so when a load comes in, we can input the cats, and it gives us estimated value based off the serial numbers. So we can get it really, really close for them. So we try not to make any buybacks for them. And then as soon as we have data set up, a data set for them, then we can hedge really close. And so they don't have a buyback issue.
Yeah, that's really good for the client, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, but then you run into situations like the beginning of this week, platinum started to run, rhodium was coming up. And so you're saying, hey, it's a good time to sell, right? It's metals up.
Sure feels like it.
And so you get them to hedge, and then 2 days later, it goes up more.
It continues to
So there's
climb.
one guarantee in this business. If you sell, the market's going to go up. If you don't sell, it's going to fall. That's pretty much what I've figured out at this point.
Yeah. Well, the market is fickle.
Yes.
It's very fickle. What are we expecting from platinum in loadings going forward? What are you seeing in some of the data?
So it depends on the manufacturer. If you look at Hondas, we're not seeing any substitution for the ones we looked at. Like you look at the Honda Pilot, the Honda Civic, the Honda Odyssey, 24, 25s, no platinum. You get down into the new Ford F-150s, the 24s, 25s, you're starting to see platinum creep back in, up into 1,500 parts per million. You get into the Chryslers, 25 Chrysler. So if you look at a 23 Chrysler Pacifica, you're going to see no platinum. You go to the 24, 25, you start seeing 3,700 parts per million platinum pop right into that cap. Yeah. So
Platinum.
That's a
That
lot.
much, huh?
yeah. So the Honda, so the 2022 Chrysler Pacifica has basically 3,300 palladium, 340 rhodium. You jump to the 2023 Pacifica, 3,750 platinum, 2,305 palladium, and 440 rhodium. So, and you look at
substitution going on there, huh? A little bit,
yeah. I mean, if you look at the Pacifica, that's a BASF cat.
right?
If you look at it, and that's probably what they call their tri-blend. I think that's the official name for the tri-blend catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
And because if you look at it, it's platinum and palladium are within 1,000 parts per million.
Is it because the platinum tends to foul versus the palladium? Is that why there's so much of it in there?
I don't know that question. I do know that like if you look at Toyotas have always ran a little bit of platinum in their cats. I'm not exactly sure the reason why they switched. I don't know if it's because of where palladium was in 22, 23, 22, I guess it was.
22,
So
yeah.
I think that's where they probably started making that switch then, and we're just now seeing it show up. It was probably a price-driven issue.
Oh, yeah.
But we're not seeing decrease in rhodium. Like we're seeing increase in rhodium. And then if you look at hybrids, everyone says hybrids have more metal in it. Well, that is true to a point. But if you look at Toyota Camry, if you look at a plug-in hybrid, they use the exact same cat as the gas cat on that car.
Right.
Really?
Yes. The plug-in hybrid, you look at the full gas electric hybrid where the engine charges the battery.
Right.
You'll see a little bit. They use a different cat. They don't cross over to their gas engines. But where you really see high loadings is turbo engines.
The heat, probably.
And the rhodium because of NOx.
The
Right,
NOx.
that too, the
you
NOx,
can't beat
for
the
sure.
rhodium for
No,
NOx.
you have to have rhodium.
Yeah. So I see higher loadings in turbo engines now than I do in hybrids.
That's interesting.
So that's what the data shows. I mean,
Are you
look at
seeing any trends in diesel? Anything
I'm
stand out for you?
seeing in the late model car diesel stuff, I'm seeing more palladium pop up in the late model Mercedes, BMWs, the silicon carbide, high value stuff.
Right.
Traditional truck diesels now.
Would those be
much
the
the same.
turbos?
Some of them, yeah.
Some of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have, they're so new, I don't have a lot of the VIN mapping data on them. But yeah, I've seen high palladium which is unusual for a diesel catalyst.
Right.
Truck stuff, tractor trailer, we still see just high platinum.
So you think this is a trend that will continue on increased platinum loadings in converters going into the newer model years going forward?
I think on the manufacturers, yeah.
No,
And because Hyundai switched too. So if I look at sorry to be looking at my screen here, but if I look
No,
at
you have the data. Share it.
yeah, if you look at the Hyundai Sonata, it switched. So the 2020 to 2023 had let's see here, basically had 90 parts per million platinum, 11,400 palladium, 910 rhodium.
Gee,
Yeah.
crazy.
Then you look at the 2425, 3690 platinum, 3940 palladium. So Hyundai's done the same thing, but Nissan, I haven't seen a lot of platinum come in yet. Honda definitely haven't. So I think it's a trend that we'll start seeing come up that started back in 22.
Yeah.
Is my guess. Just looking at the data.
Okay, so you are a well-seasoned converter recycler, many years, decades in the industry. You've got a perspective on this business that many people would love to learn. And what have you seen, say, in the last 5 years, how this industry of catalytic converter recycling has changed?
It's a technology business now. Bottom line, and that's where it's going. It's a technology. It's all about your app, your data. What functions does your app have? You know, does it have photo grading? Does it have all these aspects?
Right.
You know, and your app depends on. It used to be, and it still is a price-based business.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have competitive pricing and you have a really well-functioning database, you know, it definitely sets you apart. The business back in the day, as you know, it was 5 grades. You know, now it's
Well, it used to be
12,000.
Used to be 2 grades.
Used to be 2. Now it's 12,000 numbers, and the problem is how fast can you get to the right number
Right.
in your app?
Right.
That's
How
right.
quick?
And if you have that number.
And if you have that number, and then for us in the Tennessee mountains, is it an offline? Does it work offline without Wi-Fi? Right? Because the customer gets back in the mountains and they don't have service. They're in a building, don't have service. So our app takes a little longer to download, but we had to make it work offline.
Right.
Just because West Virginia, Tennessee, all the Virginia mountains, there's no service, and then so an app was worthless at that point.
Right.
So are we still seeing a lot of part numbers rusted off, or have they done a better job of applying those numbers?
They've done a worse job.
A worse job.
Yeah, so now they're laser
In
engraved.
California, we have a different climate.
Right.
Yeah, so but if you look at even the cats that come in California, you look at a lot of GM, a lot of these cats, they're laser engraved now.
Oh,
They're just
yeah.
printed.
They just printed on there.
They are not stamped.
Right.
They're not stamped.
Like so
It's hard.
yeah. Honda has improved because they went to stainless flanges on their cats, so they don't rust as bad. So you can see numbers better on Hondas. Nissans, the old Nissans were cast, right? They rust really fast. GMs were always well marked, but now everything's being printed, and in the East, that's going to really cause a problem here in a few years.
Right.
Well, I have a slightly off-topic question for you. I just wanted to get your opinion about some of the proposed legislation in Congress around recycling catalytic converters, and they're talking about requiring VIN numbers to be applied to these converters. If that were to take place, how do you see that affecting this industry?
As far as, is it going to cause us a problem? Is it, if they're forced? I think it's going to be a tough sell for them to do that, because think about it just from a practical standpoint, right? A manufacturer, they're running across the line, they have the same cat fit in multiple vehicles, and are they going to print? That means they're going to have to print multiple VIN numbers for the same car for that cat, and only that cat can go in the car. So defect, I personally do not see how the manufacturers would allow that to happen.
I'm hearing they support this bill.
They do, but it would have to be something that would be printed on after it would be on the car, because, like, you know how these manufacturers run. I don't see how they'll do it. It doesn't affect me, like, right? So we're all doing VIN mapping. It makes the VIN mapping easier if it's on the cat. So is the law enforcement going to I mean, they would have to only be going forward. Would it be feasible to track the cat? I mean, what are you going to do with all the millions of cars that don't have it?
Well, that's a good question. I'm hearing that they want to mark VIN numbers on those existing vehicles on the road that do not have VIN numbers attached to those converters.
Who's going to pay for it?
Well, they trying to come up with the money. You know how Congress is. They like to spend our money, right, on stupid stuff. And this would be one way to do it, you know.
I mean, my personal opinion, there's no, I don't see how they can do that. Like, right? I mean, all these vehicles that are on the road, like, how are you going to stamp it on an old rusty cat?
Right.
Like, right? Manifold stuff, all that. How are they going to do it? So me personally, I think whether they may support it, Congress may support it, does it actually get done?
Yeah.
I personally don't believe so.
And what about all those that aren't really a candidate, like you said? They're not accessible. They're all rusty. Can we get them still into the recycling stream? So
Yeah.
That's
aftermarkets. I mean, there's so many variables. I think it's a good talking point, but I don't see it happening.
So in the last couple of years, the catalytic converter recycling industry has changed and morphed. We've seen new players enter the North American market. We've seen some companies leave the space. How do you see pricing the last year or two as affecting volume?
I mean, everybody held. Some people's been setting since 22 on their stuff. Yeah, waiting for material to move.
Ouch.
I mean, a lot of people were thinking the
Palladium was down 60% 60%.
I talked to a guy last week that I think he's got 4,000. It's been setting for 3 years.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what we've seen is a lot of people were looking at the current administration. Market was going to skyrocket. It's 6 months into it. It hasn't. So we're starting to see them turn and let go and then start selling on a more regular basis.
You think that's a cash flow related decision?
No, some.
Or a market timing decision?
I think they've given up on thinking it's going back up.
Market timing.
Yeah,
Market timing.
for sure. Then.
Yeah, I think they thought it was going to turn around much quicker than it did. It hasn't, and so they're just go ahead and move it on.
What's your sense of it? How does it feel going forward? Say the next 2 to 3 years. How's it look? Same as what we've seen the last 2 years?
I think it all depends on what happens with the economy. Like, right? I think it's going to depend on vehicle sales. I'm guessing. I would say it's going to bounce around where it's at, is my personal opinion, probably between that 800 and 1,000. I mean, mines can't pull it out of the ground for any cheaper than it is. They're already hurting.
Yeah,
that's right.
You know, so my feeling is it'll stay around the same, bounce between that 800 to 1,100, 1,200. But that tomorrow it could all be changed.
So what would you say to those that are in the marketplace that have been holding for a while? Just a bit of advice. What would you say to people like that?
My opinion is, the market's it's popped the last couple of days. I mean, right? Use that money for something else. Like, right? You got 4,000 cat setting. There's $400,000, say roughly. Like, turn that money into something that you're actually going to make money on.
That echoes what you and I were discussing last week, Rich. And we're talking about an investment, right? And my answer was, well, do you have a better use for the money? Mm-hmm. And I think that whatever your decision you're trying to make, I think if you have a better use for the money, maybe that guides your decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can get more money sitting in a money market account than you're going to make on
holding on
to a cat, because I mean, look what it's done for you so far.
Right.
You've lost money.
Yeah. You're just waiting.
You're just waiting. Like, go buy more cars, flip that money, 20, 30 times in the next 6 months, and actually you'll get a better recovery than you would just setting and waiting.
Well, yeah, if you
hoping
get an
the
incremental
market-
return every time you flip it, you do it 6 times in 6 months.
Right.
That makes a lot
Yeah.
of
So
sense.
my advice is use the money for something else because COVID's not coming back.
Buy platinum.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Get some platinum bars.
Well, Ben
in your
Davis, thank
portfolio.
you. We appreciate you coming on today and helping us answer some of these tough questions.
It was good to be here. Thank you guys for the opportunity.